Y'all ready? Yeah. Let's go. Come on.
Tiger Rag Radio is on the air.
Let's crank this thing up.
We're statewide, breaking down the latest happenings with LSU athletics.
This is us.
Hear from the coaches.
Put together a defense that puts us in a position to win the SEC.
The players.
Having fun and we working, baby. That's it, baby.
The recruits.
Show some passion and some heart.
And those who cover the Fighting Tigers of LSU and the SEC.
All those things are going to be there, which are important.
It's 2 hours of nonstop LSU talk.
What a privilege. I mean, you get to represent LSU.
Tiger Rag Radio is brought to you by Cummins. Cummins creates power solutions that the world depends on. Helm Paint and Decorating. The paint experts of Louisiana. Louisiana Beef Industry Council. Max Home. And the East Baton Rouge Parish Library. Get ready to talk Tigers with producer Jackson Blackman and hosts Todd Horne, Jeff Palermo, and Glenn Guilbeau.
Players that are better people than they are players.
This is Tiger Rag Radio, live from Super Chevy Dealers Studio.
And welcome to another edition of Tiger Rag Radio from the Super Chevy Dealers Studio. Jeff Palermo along with the executive editor for Tiger Rag Magazine and TigerRag.com, Todd Horne. Glenn Guilbeau, the editor of Tiger Rag, will be with us shortly. He is watching the schedule reveal, or the schedule opponents reveal. That's probably the better way to term it, to find out exactly who LSU will be playing in 2026, 27, 28, 29. We'll get into all that during the course of the show. And our producer, Jackson Blackman, producing his final show for Tiger Rag Radio until he goes overseas to, and we'll talk more about that. And we're certainly going to miss Jackson and all his great work that he has done here at Tiger Rag Radio. So emotional show here tonight on Tiger Rag Radio. Todd?
I have no words. No words.
Hopefully during the 2 hours here, you can at least say something, or this is not going to be a very good radio show.
Well, I'll say something, but we do have to talk about the SLU game.
We do have to talk about the SLU
that's,
game.
That's going to be hard enough as it is, much less, the sadness we feel in our hearts because we're losing Jackson to a much, a career advancement.
Yes,
all that.
yes.
Overseas, though. Man.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I feel bad for his mom.
Yeah, because you have kids that do not live near you, right?
I have a kid.
Okay, a kid.
A girl. Who is my whole world.
Yeah.
And I hardly ever see her.
Yeah.
FaceTime.
Right.
From Ireland.
Mm-hmm.
She's going to be here in the next month.
Yeah. It's like Jackson and her are replacing or swapping.
Yeah. But she's only going to be here for a few days. Jackson's going to be gone a long time. So.
All right. So we'll tell you more of what Jackson's up to later on in the show. Booger McFarland, former LSU Tiger, and, of course, college football analyst for ESPN. He will join us later on this hour. Also, we will hear from Chris Gordy, host of the Locked On SEC podcast, and we'll also have we'll also get you a scouting report on the Ole Miss Rebels as well. So
Michael Katz.
Yeah, there we go. Michael Katz. I was looking for it here. So you want to start off talking about the Michael Katz, by the way, with the Northeast Mississippi Daily Journal. So you want to talk about Southeastern Louisiana, big takeaways from a game that we'll all forget about come 2:30 on Saturday.
Well, I think aside from the obvious, it was definitely a tune-up for LSU to try to get at least their offense rolling a little bit, wake up a little bit. I think they did that.
Yeah.
They were clearly an inferior FCS opponent,
right?
And they treated them just like they were.
Yep.
I told you they were going to score 60. I fell a little short.
Close. Yeah, I had them in the 40s.
Yeah.
I still had the offense scuffling a little bit, but
well, they did. They did scuffle a little bit. In fact, that's the biggest point for me was that I think Garrett Nussmeier probably played his most perfect game as a Tiger. And in fact, I think he would have been 31 of 31 had LSU not had the drops. That's right.
Drop passes, and he ends up having the longest rush of the night, too.
And the longest rush of his career.
Right.
26 yards.
So I hope everyone's happy about that. But could Caden Durham have a 30-yard run anytime soon?
So, the two big injuries, they lost Caden Durham. He went out in the first half, towards the end of the first half, if I'm not mistaken, and didn't come back. And, we got to see Juwan Johnson.
Yeah.
I told you he was going to be an integral part of their offense.
Yes.
He scored 2 touchdowns.
Still waiting for him to take the Wildcat snap, but yeah.
Yeah. But they also lost Gabriel Reiliford. And Reiliford's injury, a defensive end, he's not a starter, but he's been in the rotation. Yeah. And, we won't find out about him till probably tomorrow, maybe, when we get our first injury reports. But it doesn't look good for him.
No, it doesn't.
He probably will have to have surgery. Well, possibly will have to have surgery and could be out for the year if he has to do that. But that defense is awesome, and they have the athletes and they have the depth, and they're well stocked at the edge rushers, defensive end, which is what he plays. So Caden Durham's a question mark.
Well, is the running game still a question mark overall, Todd? To me, it is.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that. There was, would they have 96 yards rushing or something like that in the game? That's nothing. Yeah, relatively speaking. Now they had some meaningful rushes. You mentioned Nussmeier's scramble, which was very meaningful. That was on a 3rd and 11. Right. He picked up 26. Juwan Johnson had some good runs
inside the red zone, which was good to see.
Yeah, and they did convert on 3rd down. Yeah, which they had not been doing. But again, they're playing Southeastern. But it's still good to get the reps and get that in your bloodstream and your muscle memory. You
would just want to see more 6-yard runs, 8-yard runs, 12-yard runs. Yeah. Instead, you see a lot of runs go for a yard or two or struggling to get to the line of scrimmage. Mm-hmm. The line is getting beat. Major questions at right tackle about Weston Davis, and if we have questions about Weston Davis. Brian Kelly apparently has no questions about Weston Davis. He has no questions. You think he's
his position is not in jeopardy.
Well, what if DJ Chester didn't have to sit out the first half?
You know what? I can't answer the psychological questions because I can only tell you what the coach says. But this is radio, so we can do. But we're going to conjecture.
Well, let me ask you this: if DJ Chester was available to play in the first half, could he be your starter at right tackle on Saturday?
I believe that Carius Kern is probably closer to that.
Okay.
Obviously, DJ Chester is the anointed 6th man. You have 5-man rotation. He's the first one to go in at any place. But I think they really want Carius Kern, the true freshman, who's just like a freakish animal and is super strong. The only thing that's keeping him out right now, I believe, is mentality. He doesn't understand what he needs to understand yet. But once that gets in, I think he'll be the right tackle.
But Weston Davis, he's a redshirt freshman. It's not like this guy. I mean, he's a young guy too. I mean, it's
and he's getting beat mentally too, for the most part.
Yeah,
I did see maybe one play against Southeastern where he was physically whipped.
Yeah.
But the rest of the time it was all mental errors. Just not stepping in the right place, his technique's wrong, not going to the right place where he's supposed to go on the call. But they put DJ Chester in to start the second half at right tackle, and I think that speaks volumes.
Yeah. Well, what I am so excited about this game, Todd, is we are going to start getting some answers, because I don't know truly how good this team is. I have the concerns about the running game. I do not have many concerns about Garrett Nussmeier in the passing game. Yeah, you wish you had. I mean, I think we all thought Chris Hilton would be more of an impact, but hey, Barian Brown and Aaron Anderson and Bauer Sharp, you get Trades Green back this week. I mean, all those guys. Xavier Thomas has been much more part of the offense. It's just there's only one football to go around, and there's going to be an odd man out or a couple odd men out. And when Chris Hilton hasn't shown the ability to do a lot of the underneath stuff and the mid-range stuff, then he's going to get lost out there in this kind of an offense, especially when you had a quarterback who played a couple games limited,
right,
as far as throwing the ball downfield. But who knows? I mean, Chris Hilton, it still could come back around, and Hilton could make his impact. But defensively, I know what I'm seeing, and it looks really good. Guys flying to the football and getting pressure and the depth, but there has not been a team that's really challenged this group. And so they've made it look easy.
I think the key this weekend for LSU is going to be that they're going against a defense in Ole Miss. First of all, that runs primarily a 3-3-5, and that hadn't been good for LSU this year. Going against that, that's primarily to guard against these spread offenses, and that's what LSU's going to want to do. Caden Durham is a key. If he can play, they're going to need him to run the ball. Now, he may not, need to run for 100 yards, but he's going to need to. They're going to need to control the ball. They're going to need to be able to run. If he's not in, I think it's going to be Jawan Johnson, and I think it's going to be Harlem Berry, and I think they're going to be compensating with a lot of screen passes and flares out of the backfield, substituting for the run game, because they're going to need to keep the ball, play keep away against Ole Miss. Ole Miss is susceptible to the run. Mm-hmm. They've been run all over all year long. I mean, they've given up more than 200 yards, except against Tulane. They played in a 45-10 blowout of Tulane, which shocked most people. I expected Tulane to give them a better game. Yeah. But, they are susceptible to the run. And it's kind of weird. You got LSU's weakness going against their weakness, and which one's going to get it. Now, on the other side, defensively, Ole Miss is very strong against the pass. And they haven't had a great pass rush, but they've held all of their opponents under 200 yards passing. So LSU's going to need to have some balance. They're going to need to, if they're not able to run the ball, they're going to at least need to have some short passing to substitute for that, to open up the vertical threats, and they're going to need the vertical threats. And I do think that's one of the things we saw in Southeastern is that a quote-unquote healthy Garrett Nussmeier is flinging the ball downfield again.
I would say we don't know much about this Ole Miss team either. You look at their opponents. I mean, they've beaten Kentucky, who's probably the worst team in the Southeastern Conference. Mm-hmm. Arkansas is one of the worst teams in the league, but Talon Green is one of the best quarterbacks in the league in my mind. And I think that's where a lot of the running issues that
he did. He had 150 something yards rushing against them, scrambling and stuff.
And Garrett Nussmeier is not going to run for 150 yards.
No, he's not. He's not.
It's a different dynamic when you're facing.
It is, and that's one of the reasons why LSU is going to have to play some ball control, keep away, in my opinion. Yeah. But I will say this: Ole Miss can run the ball too, and they run it straight at you. They, Logan Diggs has been.
He's been decent.
He's been decent. He hasn't been the starter. No. But they do run it straight at you. That's going to be going straight into LSU's strength. Yeah. That's been one of LSU's defensive strengths this year. I think that Arkansas should have won that game against Ole Miss. Mm-hmm. They fumbled just like they did this past weekend against Memphis. They did the same thing, driving for the win against Ole Miss. And, they, like you said, they barely beat Kentucky. They did blow out Georgia State 63-7 in their opener. That doesn't count. That's like the Southeastern game for LSU. But those two SEC wins and the win over Tulane, the two SEC wins are good. The win over Tulane was downright impressive. Yeah. And I think the question is, who's going to be the quarterback? Yes. And I think the question is going to be, can LSU's defense continue to be as athletic and chaotic, wreaking havoc as they have been?
And again, we'll get a scouting report on the Ole Miss Rebels from Michael Katz of the Northeast Mississippi Daily. We'll also hear from Chris Gordy, from the host of the Locked On SEC podcast. The other big SEC game this week, Alabama and Georgia. We'll talk to Chris about that. Booger McFarland also set to join us in about 20 minutes or so you'll want to stay tuned for that. This is Tiger Rag Radio. We got Todd Horne. Glenn Guilbeau is here. He will join us shortly. We'll be back after this.
Chevy trucks have you covered when the road takes you from smooth sailing to Chevy Colorado will eat up some of the toughest terrains with 5 available drive modes. And Silverado and Silverado HD have the muscle to take you out for some serious With multiple engine options and impressive towing, well, Silverado EV is the perfect combo of performance and capability.
Nice.
Making it a snap to hitch up this electric truck and hit the road. Wherever the road leads, Chevy trucks are right there with you. See your Super Chevy dealers today.
Tiger Rag Radio.
The details do matter. Every step, every hand on the ground, every route, everything that we do has a purpose. We are really focused, and our attention to detail is going to be unmatched.
Back here on Tiger Rag Radio, Jeff Palermo along with the executive editor for Tiger Rag Magazine, Todd Horne. And we'll have Glenn Guilbeau join us shortly. He's watching the schedule reveal, which is coming out as we speak, as we do the show here on Tuesday night live.
It's for according to the ESPN and SEC Network, ESPN2 and SEC Network blurbs on the telecast, broadcast. It's for the 2024 rollout of the 2024 schedule. That's what it says.
Okay, I got you. But all right, here we'll get into this a little bit more. But so LSU next year will host A&M, Alabama. So they'll at least play Alabama again next year, but they will not play them in 2027. They'll host Mississippi State and Texas, and the Tigers will go on the road and play 5 SEC games. That's because you're hosting Clemson. If they were at Clemson, I'm sure they would be having 5 home games. But next year, LSU will travel to Arkansas. They'll go back to Ole Miss. They'll go to Auburn. They'll go to Kentucky, and they'll go to Tennessee. So there you look at 2026. But
pretty tough schedule.
Yeah, well, but I love the 9-game schedule.
Yep.
Love it. I would say, I guess just my thing was, were they going to play potentially Texas, Alabama, and Georgia all in the same season? And that's not going to happen. At least you get Texas and Georgia split apart.
And they always are going to have 1 year, 4 home SEC games like next year, and then next year it'll be 5. That's the way it's going to flip-flop.
All right, let's talk about this matchup on Saturday. We talked about Caden Durham's injury, and obviously the big injury news involving Ole Miss is who's going to start at quarterback.
Do you really believe there's any question in Lane Kiffin's mind?
You see Austin Simmons playing?
Lane Kiffin says if he's healthy, he's the starter. Statistically, I mean, I don't even see it because
Trinidad Chambliss has been so good.
Yeah, 719 yards passing, 4 TDs, no interceptions, 195 yards rushing on 36 attempts for 2 TDs, and Simmons has thrown 2 interceptions and
hasn't looked great.
Hasn't looked great. Only completed about 50% of his passes against Kentucky before he got hurt. I just don't see it.
I'm eager when we have Michael Katz on from the Northeast Mississippi Journal in hour number 2. Were they expecting Trinidad Chambliss to look like this? A transfer from Ferris State. Ferris.
Yeah, where is that? I think of Ferris Bueller every time I hear that.
It sounds California-ish.
Yeah.
Because you think of Ferris wheel or something like that. And I don't know why I'm equating California with Ferris wheels, but I kind of am for some reason, because that sounds like you lived in California. I'm sure there's thousands of Ferris wheels there.
There are all over the place. That's the first thing you think of when you think of California. Right, Jeff? Yeah. No, but I mean, really, Chambliss, he's not seen a defense like he's going to see this week.
Yes.
And he hadn't seen the pressure like he's going to see. So it's going to be an eye-opening experience for him. Now, he's looked very good. And that's part of what surprised me against Tulane is that they weren't able to contain him more. But Harold Perkins and that team, that defense, are going to have a good game plan for him. Blake Baker's going to attempt to confuse the heck out of him, and it's going to be a new world for him. And I don't see Austin Simmons. I don't care if he's healthy or not. I just don't see it happening.
How big of a game will Whit Weeks have, knowing what we know now?
Man, did you see that picture on Twitter with him sitting there with...
They looked very happy.
Her hand position was amazing in that photo.
And we're talking, of course, in case you've been living under a rock, Whit Weeks is dating one of Lane Kiffin's daughters.
Laney Kiffin, right? Isn't that her name?
Landry. Well,
Landry.
yeah, they call her Landry. Yeah.
Landry, okay. So that comes out, and apparently it's been confirmed by both
Yes.
Whit and Lane.
Yes.
Lane Kiffin confirmed it, and he's at least pretending not to be very happy about it, right? He said that he's going to get vengeance. Said, take the over. Take the over. and by the way, LSU is a 2.5-point underdog.
They were a favorite in this game. It's shifted.
It shifted, so they're now a 2.5-point underdog, and the over-under is 55. That's what I saw, 55. I don't know if it's gone up or down.
55.5 is what I saw.
That's not going to happen.
You don't see 55 points.
No. I see. Well, it could be. But
See,
it's
I
going
could
to be
see
like
the final score.
24.
Well, I could see the final score being 31-24, something like that.
Yeah, I could see that. But I think it's going to be. I think the lower scoring of a game it is, the better it benefits LSU.
Yeah, well, they know how to win that kind of game.
Yeah,
they've done it twice against Florida and Clemson,
and I think that's
Louisiana Tech, if you want to count that.
I think that's exactly the type of game we're going to see if LSU has their way.
Yeah.
I don't think that Lane Kiffin is spending nearly as much time thinking about who he's going to start at quarterback as he is what he wants to do to Whit Weeks. By the way, 2 years ago, him and Whit Weeks got into it on the field. You recall that? I don't recall the circumstances of that, but
I don't think Whit and Landry had met. Landry apparently was linked with Walker Howard last year. Did you know that?
Yeah, well, Glenn told me that today, and I just hope that. Well, I don't even want us to bring up curses and things like that.
Oh, you don't want to see Whit get hurt,
right?
Yeah. I joked around, and I know this is not true, but you don't let the facts get in the way of a good story. I joked around that she dumped Walker when he got hurt, and then it's like in the movies. You dump the quarterback, and then you go with the guy that's kind of a goofy personality, but is a nice guy. You see.
But why wouldn't you do it with somebody in close proximity to you?
Because it's 2025.
I would like to know the story of how they met. I would like to know the story of how they began dating. And when do they see each other?
Hey, it's 2020. You can see each other all the time. There's Zoom and all kinds of FaceTiming and all that.
Real.
It's not like how it was when we were kids, and a long-distance relationship meant long-distance relationship. We are way beyond a break. We'll be back after this here on Tiger Rag Radio.
Things are happening big time at your East Baton Rouge Parish Library in September. Let's begin with the 48th Annual Author-Illustrator Program featuring Brian and Andrea Davis Pinkey. Music is on the agenda with Red Stick Rhythms Concert Series. September also features Bilingual Family Hour at the new South Branch. For more information about library programs in September, go to ebrpl.com.
Now more Tiger Rag Radio, live from Super Chevy Dealers Studio.
Yeah, we're back inside the Super Chevy Dealers Studio. Jeff Palermo, News and Sports Director of Louisiana Radio Network, along with the Executive Editor for Tiger Rag Magazine, Todd Horne. And joining us now on the Max Home Hotline, former LSU great, now does an outstanding job with college football analysis for ESPN and ABC. Booger McFarland joins us on Tiger Rag Radio. Booger, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing outstanding, gentlemen. How we doing?
We're doing well. Excited about this game on Saturday to find out a lot more about this LSU team that has played 4 teams that I don't know if any of them are any good. Clemson and Florida are really off to tough starts at the moment. But do you believe that this defense that LSU has put together and what you've seen here through the first 4 weeks, is this a legitimate, really good defense that LSU has?
I think the defense is pretty good. I think they're going to get their most stern test this week against Lane and Ole Miss. Lane is one of the best play callers I've ever seen in college football. And I think when you give him a little time, and I know he's kind of been stewing about the loss in Baton Rouge last year against Blake Baker and this LSU defense, I think he's going to be ready. And I think LSU will face their stern test. But I do like this defense. They can cover man-to-man on the back end. They have speed. They have athleticism. I like their front. The front may not be dominant, although McKinley's starting to play like that. He's starting to come on. Gooden is a guy who's very versatile, can penetrate and get up the field. I like what those guys are doing. But they're going to get their most stern test this weekend at Oxford.
Hey, Booger, this is Todd. But before I ask you my first question, I got to ask you the question I know you've probably answered a million times, but I'd like for our listeners, statewide listeners too, how did you get the name Booger? How did it go from Anthony to Booger?
Well, everybody from Winsboro, Louisiana, or more or less my neck of the woods, has a nickname. So as I was growing up, I'm a middle child. My sister is 6 years older than me. My brother's 2 years younger. And my mother called me a lot of things, man, a lot of things. And Booger happened to be one of them. And, when you have an older sister and a younger brother, which I was, you get teased a lot. And my sister teased me with some of the things that my mother called me. And Booger was one that I didn't like. So, of course, she used it a lot. And the more and more friends came around, the more they heard it, the more they used it. And it just kind of grew from there to the point that when I left Winsboro to go to LSU my freshman year, I figured I'd kind of leave it behind. And, I started my first game at LSU and it was on the road. So by the time we got to Tiger Stadium, I'm like, okay, maybe Anthony will be, the name that's used. And
Right.
I'll never forget the first tackle I made. And, on the loudspeaker, tackled by Booger McFarland. And I'm like, I looked up at the press box, not that I could see it, but I was like, how in the hell did he find that out? And that was the point where I kind of stopped fighting it, man. And it's been Booger ever since.
Oh, that's funny. Was Dan Bournet he had to be the PA announcer.
Yeah, this was 1995.
That's right. That's Jerry DiNardo's first year. How do you think, speaking of that, how do you think this defense compares to the defenses that you guys had back in the late 90s?
I think the corners that they have right now are probably better. Our front probably was a little bit better because it was myself. Like my freshman year was myself, Chuck Wiley, Gabe Northern, James Gilliard. Like you have more established guys. I think these guys now are probably a little smaller because the game is not as big as it was back then. We were probably probably bigger. They might have been a little bit more athletic. But the name of the game is this: if you can cover and hold up man to man on the back end, and you can play coverage, then that allows the front seven to do a lot of different things. And I think that's the thing that Blake Baker has now. You got some guys on the back end. Like I love this freshman Pickett, Delaney. I love what they can do from a man-to-man standpoint on the back end. And you got the safeties on the back end back there, 13. I love how he plays. It allows the front to be creative and to do a lot of different things. And so I think that's where, we compared a little bit, but they're fun to watch though.
Hey, Booger, this is Glenn. Thanks for joining us, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Hey, let me ask you, LSU's defense was terrible in 2020. It was terrible in 2023. Last year they got a little better. What's it like for you just watching an LSU team now that you can almost depend on the defense now?
Well, you kind of pull your hair out a little bit because if you go back to when Jaden Daniels was during his Heisman Trophy season, if we'd have had just a middle of the pack defense, we probably are in the playoffs and we're probably competing for a national championship because that's how good the offense was. And so to watch them, especially the Ole Miss game, we gave up 700 yards.
Oh.
It wasn't even like a system. It didn't seem like, and that's the thing that bothered me. Not only was it the system, it didn't seem like they took any pride. And I think that's the thing that coming from Louisiana, playing at LSU, man, we couldn't score 10 points. But I tell you what, you weren't going to score probably more than 13 against us because we took pride in, number one, stopping the run and then getting after the quarterback. And we didn't have the most complex system, but we played hard. We played physical. You knew coming into Baton Rouge, especially early in the season, it was going to be a dogfight. And it's frustrating to watch, but also at the same time, I have to realize these kids are a lot younger, and especially now with transfer portals and NIL, it's cool for me to watch these young kids grow because I remember what it was like for me to be a freshman and then grow. My first game at LSU, I got benched because we were at Texas A&M, and I looked across from me, and I played against Calvin Collins, who was a senior. So here I am. I'm 17 years old. I didn't turn 18 until December. So I'm 17 lined up against a 21-year-old senior. I look in the backfield. There's Leland McElroy back there. And I played the first half, and I'll never forget Mike Tollison pulled me to the side at halftime. He said, son, I think he put Mike Sutton in. He said, I'm going to put somebody else in. He said, you're going to have better days at LSU, but today's not one of them. Because I wasn't ready. Like, even though I won the job during fall camp, the stage that day was a little big for me. Now, I started the next week, and I went on to start, I want to say 44 out of 46 or 45 out of 48, whatever the number was. Like, I played a lot of football, but it's hard when you're young and you're trying to grow and you're trying to play. Now, a lot of these freshmen don't have that problem now because they don't get a chance to play because you want to play upperclassmen, and you're doing that with the portal and stuff like that. But it's always fun for me to watch LSU play, man. I live and die every Saturday with the purple and gold, man.
Hey, Booger, what is it about guys who played at LSU who are suddenly having media careers? Marcus Spears, Jacob Hester, baseball guys like Todd Walker, and you were really one of the first ones, man. You kind of blazed the trail. How do you think that happened?
Well, I think if you go back, Dr. Tommy Karam was kind of one of the first ones who kind of started you in the process of thinking that way. And then Herb Vincent, who was the SID back then, kind of planted these seeds and just to give you an idea that it was possible. And so fast forward, I get drafted. They always taught us how to be very articulate in front of the media, how to carry yourself well, how to do those things like that. So that's kind of how it got started, because you had to know how to answer questions and how to deal with the media. And I can thank Herb, you think Dr. Karam, you think Verge Osbury, because those people were the ones. I mean, I had no idea. I was a 17-year-old kid from Winsboro, Louisiana. Like, the only thing I was watching on TV was ABC, CBS, NBC, and PBS, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. Like, I had no idea some of these other channels that were on, like ESPN and all this stuff. So I think LSU does a really, really good job of preparing you for any career you want, but especially as a player, because it's such a high-profile school. You're going to have to deal and talk to the media on a regular basis, and you got to know how to do it. And I'm amazed now. Like, you watch these guys now. Like, I watch Nussmeier now, and you watch Perkins, and you watch Whit Weeks, and some of these guys talk to the media. It is truly fun to watch them. And I smile every time because they understand how to answer the questions. But more importantly, they understand when the media is trying to bait them into something. And it's kind of cool for us to watch. Not only myself, but I talk to Spears and Clark, and we all have kind of fun talking about that too.
Booger, what does LSU, going back to the game this weekend, what does LSU have to do against either Austin Simmons or Trinidad Chambliss in order to establish themselves defensively? Because I think that's where the game's going to be won. Do you think that's where the game's going to be won?
You got to know, anytime you play a Lane Kiffin team, like, Lane has a lot of things that he does, but at his core, he wants to run the football. So he's going to try to create numbers to run the football. And when he can create those numbers, or whether he can create them or not, then it's going to be dictated, can he throw the football? And by throw the football, I mean take shots down the field. He doesn't want 5 or 10 yards. He wants 50. And so it's run, can I get 50? Run, can I get 50? So Lane does a really, really good job of that. And now, because you got Simmons and because you got Chambliss, you got two quarterbacks that can run the football. And if you remember, last year LSU had trouble with running quarterbacks. So I'm sure Lane watched the tape. I'm sure he's going to try to run the quarterbacks, especially if it's Chambliss. Simmons, I don't know how the ankle is going to be. I'm going to be interested to see who they start, because if they start Simmons, I think the quarterback run becomes less of the game plan. If you start Chambliss, I think the quarterback run is going to be a big part. Number 5, the tailback, is a really good back. But I think at its core, you got to stop the run. You got to stop the run and make these kids throw the football. And then once they throw the football, now number 4, number 3, our corners got to line up and they got to play sticky coverage. And when you get an opportunity to blitz these young men, you got to come after them and you got to get them on the ground.
So let's flip it real quick. LSU's running game is going to be an important aspect for them to at least be able to neutralize and establish their passing game. But what's been wrong with that running game, and what's wrong with that offensive line from your standpoint as a defensive nose guard and defensive tackle?
The offensive line is young. They're new. They're trying to get it figured out. They haven't played with the most confidence. And when you're not playing with the most confidence, you play a little timid. And I think that's what they've done. Brad Davis is one of the best offensive line coaches in football. I have no doubt that he's going to get it figured out. You don't have to be balanced 50-50, but you got to be able to get 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2. You got to be able to get it to 2nd and 4. You need to be able to get it in a situation where Nussmeier doesn't have to throw the football 50 times. And so it's kind of like against Clemson. Like they had 31 carries against Clemson. They're going to need 25 to 30 carries against Ole Miss. And it doesn't have to be for 200 yards, but it needs to be 25, 30 carries for 120, 130 yards. You got to be able to keep the defense honest, because what teams are doing now is they're playing 2 deep safeties, and they're daring LSU to run the football, and they know that Joe Sloan wants to get big plays. And so how do you prevent big plays? You keep 2 safeties deep, and you make Nussmeier dink and dunk. And sometimes he gets a little impatient, but he's got to become more patient. Sloan's got to figure out a way to run him out of this defense when it comes to 2 deep safeties. It's kind of a cat and mouse game. So if you watch the game and you look at Ole Miss's defense, if they got 2 safeties back, you got to run them out of that. Now, when they go single safety, now you can get Parker, you can get Chris Hilton, you can get some of these guys in single coverage one-on-one. Everybody's wondering how come LSU hasn't been throwing the football deep. Well, it's hard to throw it deep when you got 2 safeties back there. And that's the reason why you've been having the dink and dunk. So hopefully they can run them up out of that. We'll see.
Hey, Booger, it was a pleasure to have you on our show tonight. We really appreciate it. I know you got to run. We got to get to a break as well, but keep up the good work over at ESPN and ABC.
Hey, man, appreciate you having me, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Anthony.
That is the great Booger McFarland joining us here on Tiger Rag Radio on the Max Home Hotline. We'll be back after this here on Tiger Rag Radio.
You should call that radio station and let him have it.
Good idea. 1-800-673-5555.
I want to be under the bright lights. I want to be on the Broadway stage.
Tiger Rag Radio is on now.
Yeah, back here on Tiger Rag Radio, Jeff Palermo along with the executive editor for Tiger Rag Magazine, Todd Horne, as we just had Booger McFarland on our show on the Max Home Hotline as we are inside the Super Chevy dealer studio. What stood out to you as far as what Booger had to say, Todd?
That last segment.
Yeah, that last answer I think was really big.
Yeah, I mean, he said LSU is going to have to run the ball 25 to 30 times for 120 to 130 yards.
Right.
We didn't get into the fact that Caden Durham's hurt, and we don't know what his status is going to be for the game. But he said, and sometimes Nussmeier, because of those 2 deep safeties that teams have been playing against them, trying to force them to prove that they can run the ball. Yeah, Nussmeier has to sometimes use dinks and dunks because it substitutes, like we were talking about earlier, for LSU's lack of an ability to do that. Booger blames LSU's lack of a running game on the offensive line that is young and inexperienced. Yeah. And so that gives you hope that they're going to come around, but they're going to have to do it this game. Yeah. For LSU to have a chance, I think. Again, I think it's going to be a low-scoring game, but for LSU to convert, stay ahead of the chains, and convert on 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3, like Booger was talking about, they're going to have to rely on some dinks and dunks, and I think that's why Harlan Berry and Juwan Johnson are going to play a major role in this game.
Yeah, Brian Kelly doesn't sound too concerned about the injury to Caden Durham, but he was not the same after the dislocated toes last year. And I understand toes and a sprained ankle are 2 different things. I get that. But this is a guy that really relies on his speed. And if that gets compromised at all, that's my concern with Caden Durham is, can he be as effective when he is running on a bad wheel?
And the other thing he does, in addition to his speed, which he obviously relies on, like you said, is he breaks tackles. Yeah. And that's one of the things, Juwan Johnson is 6 foot, 210 pounds, prototypical SEC back, and he showed that he can break some tackles. So I think that's why he's going to be a big key. And I would love to see Caleb Jackson come back into his own somehow.
Well, BK said yesterday he showed some promise in the Southeastern game. I don't know if that's just blowing smoke or what. We'll be back after this here on Tiger Rag Radio.
Tiger Rag Radio is back on the air, live from Super Chevy Dealers Studio.
Back here on Tiger Rag Radio, Jeff Palermo along with the executive editor for Tiger Rag Magazine, Todd Horne. Coming up to kick off hour number 2, Chris Gordy from SEC Locked On. He will join us. He's the host of that podcast. Big news in the Southeastern Conference today, other than the football matchups and sites for the next 4 years being revealed. And we'll dive a little bit more into that later on in the show. But The big news involving this season, John Napier, who has looked really good for Oklahoma, has a broken bone in his throwing hand, and he's expected to miss a month as he'll need to undergo hand surgery. The Sooners coming off a big win against Auburn. Oklahoma looks legit, man. Their defense looks really good, and Napier has put himself in discussion prior to this as a Heisman candidate. That now takes a serious hit if you're going to miss 4 weeks or so. But this is a big blow here for the Oklahoma Sooners.
Yeah, Napier had been actually the leader in the odds for the Heisman Trophy until today, when this Fernando Mendoza of Indiana has surpassed him, mainly because of this injury, but also because Mendoza completed like 43 consecutive
Man, did they torch Illinois on Saturday night? My goodness, that was a beatdown. I haven't seen a beatdown like that since the Seahawks crushed the Saints.
And they held Illinois to 2 yards rushing.
And Illinois was a top 10 team. That tells you you just don't know. You don't know anything about these teams.
College football is crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Unless you're the Saints in NFL, everything is so parody ridden. But so Oklahoma's going to have to face Texas on October 11th in the Red River rivalry.
Okay.
And they also have to play South Carolina, Ole Miss, Tennessee.
Ouch.
Alabama, Missouri, and LSU. So, the surgery keeps you out a month. The surgery is going to be tomorrow, I believe, and that's if he gets back in a month. They got a lot of, and they're off to a 4-0 start.
Right.
With those big wins over Auburn and Michigan. Now, I'm sure we'll talk more with Chris Gordy when he comes on, but
two things that I've been looking at when it comes to LSU. Will Texas A&M be undefeated when they come to Tiger Stadium? I think there's a great chance that occurs now that they beat Notre Dame. And my other thing is kind of a general question. How much will that LSU-Oklahoma game matter? And to me, I thought, and I still do, because Oklahoma's defense, just like LSU's, at least through the first month of the season, looks really legit and looks really good, and you can lean on it and you can win tight games. LSU has shown that. Oklahoma showed that this past week against Auburn. How much will that game matter? Meaning, if one team's got 2 losses and, just the college football playoff implications of that game for both teams.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll see if it still will, we'll see if Oklahoma falls off, but
this is a big blow.
Yeah,
Definitely
it is. You can't. Imagine if Garrett Nussmeier had a broken hand. Hey, Michael Van Buren looked good against Southeastern.
Yeah, against Southeastern, Michael Van Buren looked really good.
All right, let's take a break. Our top of the hour break. One more hour for Jackson Blackman to go before he heads off to France. So we'll get to that and a lot more. Chris Gordy joins us from Locked On SEC. So stay tuned for that. This is Tiger Rag Radio from the Super Chevy Dealer Studio.
Y'all ready? Yeah. Let's go. Come on.
Tiger Rag Radio is on the air.
Let's crank this thing up.
We're statewide, breaking down the latest happenings with LSU athletics.
This is us.
Hear from the coaches,
Put together a defense that puts us in a position to win the SEC.
the players,
Having fun and we working, baby. That's it, baby.
the recruits,
Show some passion and some heart.
and those who cover the Fighting Tigers of LSU and the
All
SEC.
those things are going to be there, which are important.
It's 2 hours of nonstop LSU
What
talk.
a privilege. You get to represent LSU.
Tiger Rag Radio is brought to you by Cummins. Cummins creates power solutions that the world depends on. Helm Paint and Decorating. The paint experts of Louisiana. Louisiana Beef Industry Council. Max Home. And the East Baton Rouge Parish Library. Get ready to talk Tigers with producer Jackson Blackman and hosts Todd Horne, Jeff Palermo, and Glenn Guilbeau.
We've got players that are better people than they are players.
This is Tiger Rag Radio, live from Super Chevy Dealers Studio.
Hour number 2 of Tiger Rag Radio. Glad you can join us here tonight as we get you ready for LSU Ole Miss coming up this Saturday. And later on in the hour, we will have an Ole Miss reporter who will join us as well. Michael Katz of the Northeast Mississippi Daily Journal will join us later on in the hour. Let's talk some SEC football, and the guy to do it is Chris Gordy from Locked On SEC, part of the Locked On Network. Chris, thanks a lot for joining us on the Max Home Hotline. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. I'm happy to update you guys. I still have not finished Glenn's book on LSU baseball.
Come on, man. It's an easy read.
It's because he's watching the Astros choke their season away.
Yeah, quit watching the Astros, man. There's no chokes in that book. Skip wins all the games in that book.
All right, well, Chris, I think you've been probably busy. You've had your paparazzi out there. I'm sure you know how this love affair between Whit Weeks and Lane Kiffin blossomed. So go ahead and spill the beans as far as what you know about that.
Yeah, this is old news. My wife told me about this about 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Really?
Can we get her on the show? Let's get her on the show.
Wait. Then go ahead, Gordy, and tell us how it transpired, because we were wondering how they got together, because they're 200 miles apart. So how could this happen?
I don't know how it transpired, but about 3 weeks ago, so Landry does a lot of like TikToks and live get ready with me videos and stuff like that. And she did a video, her and a friend, at an apartment about 3 weeks ago. It was a live video, and in the background on the wall, there's a Weeks LSU jersey mounted on the wall. And I'm to assume that was Whit Weeks' apartment. She was there just several weeks ago. So this has been going on and on. It's kind of funny that they waited till this week to announce it. I think they knew what they were doing here.
Oh, yeah. No.
Well, do you think that Lane is spending more time thinking about Whit Weeks, or is he spending more time thinking about who he's going to start at quarterback?
I'm sure it's the quarterback. I'm sure he's not worried about that. I'll rely on Glenn to go, get in the bushes and put a story out that, spotted at walk-ons. It's Wes Weeks and Lane Kiffin. So
Whit, not West. You're starting a rumor right now.
Maybe he's right. Let's ask his wife.
You just put a new twist on it. She's dating both brothers.
No, I didn't say
Maybe
that.
all three of them.
I didn't say that. I left it out in the open, man.
3 weeks.
You always got to go too far.
All right, let's get this back on the trail. Let's talk about football here. Enough of the TMZ talk. Let's go.
Well, I was going to say it's a great question about the quarterback, because I predicted this. I heard from somebody probably about a week and a half ago, asked them about the Austin Simmons injury, and they said it's going to be a couple weeks. They said it's going to take some time for that thing to heal and him to get fully healthy. And so, look, it's been great for Ole Miss that the 2 weeks of his absence, Trinidad Chambliss has taken off and been this awesome quarterback. But somebody asked me on Sunday, so what do you think? You think Austin Simmons will be back? I said, look, I'm just going to make my prediction now. Kiffin's going to play coy. He's going to act like, Simmons is going to be back at practice. He's going to play it like this, and then we get to Saturday night, and it's all Trinidad Chambliss. That was my prediction on Sunday. Sure enough, today it comes out, he's back at practice. He's feeling much better. Mm-hmm. I still think, again, I'm going to stick to my guns, that Austin Simmons doesn't play this week, that it is Trinidad Chambliss. But Lane is doing this to have to make LSU prepare for both quarterbacks.
He's got to be the first quarterback in history named Trinidad. Huh?
Yeah, it's a great name.
It is a great name.
Trinidad.
Well, I was hoping to see his brother Tobago be in the ranking quarterbacks, but I haven't seen that yet.
Well, so what do you think about that game this weekend before we start talking about the rest of the SEC? What do you think is going to happen?
It's already the sexy pick of people wanting to pick give LSU their first loss. Like, I'm already seeing a lot of national folks already saying, that's a dangerous spot. I think Ole Miss, they're rocking and rolling with Chambliss, and LSU's offense just does not look good, and they're not going to be able to win a shootout with Ole Miss. I can hear that argument, but it neglects how elite LSU's defense has been so far. If you're going to tell me Ole Miss is going to score 30-plus points, I'd be shocked. It's not to say LSU's offense doesn't have to score. Yes, they're going to have to do that, and if Caden Durham's banged up, they're going to have to find a way to move the football on the ground. But I thought, look, I get
Juwan
it with Southeastern.
Juwan Johnson. He looks great.
And he ran better than Durham last week. I just feel like last week was a little bit of a shot in the arm for Nussmeier to get some rhythm going with his receivers. It's not that they don't have talent. I mean, they are loaded with talent at wide receiver and up and down the roster. So I think that'll carry a little bit of confidence into Oxford. Will it be the explosive offense we were all hoping to see before the season? Maybe not, but I just think if this defense does what they need to do. I mean, the 5 interceptions against Lagway 2 weeks ago was incredible. I mean, the fact that they had 6 interceptions for the first 3 weeks and had 6 interceptions all of last season was huge for this defense. And so I hate to put on the defense, but it seems like Brian Kelly is going to look at that defense and say, it's up to you guys for us to go win this game.
One more question. Do you think Perkins can neutralize Chambliss by himself almost?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you neutralize him, but I think does he have a 100-yard rushing day? I mean, that's the key I'd be looking for is limiting his big gains. Because, I mean, again, to do it 2 weeks ago against Arkansas, I was a little taken aback, but I said, okay, well, maybe Arkansas is the worst defense in the SEC. And last week against Memphis maybe kind of helped that argument a little bit more for me. But to do it against Tulane, who I think is a pretty good group of 5 team, like that was pretty darn impressive. So, again, he came from Ferris State, Division II. You never know how that's going to translate to this level. But, again, this will be hands down the best defense he has seen thus far this year.
Well, Chris, what are you going to do in 2027? LSU and Alabama do not play in 2027 for the first time since like the mid-'60s. How do you feel about that series not being annual?
Well, if I'm an LSU fan, I might throw a party. I mean, it's, to finally get the
But they're not any good anymore. Alabama's not any good anymore. This is when they want to play them.
We'll see. I mean, they only have one loss this year. I mean, it's we'll see what happens as we go along. But yeah, no, I thought when the permanent rivals came out, I said, that's if you're an LSU fan, you're celebrating that. You're going, you kidding me? Arkansas and Ole Miss at A&M.
Oh, they got a lucky break. They really did. They got it.
Yeah,
nice.
and again, it's not like you avoid the other teams. They're still going to pop up on your schedule every other year.
And that's what's good about the schedule.
Yeah, especially with Kiffin going to Florida next year.
Well, I mean, it's just that's the tough part is, it's LSU for years had to deal with, there were some years where out of the East you played Florida as your permanent rival, and there were some years you played Florida and Georgia, and Bama got Tennessee when they were down in Vanderbilt. I mean, not all SEC schedules are created equal. I'm just happy we're getting a little bit more to a more balanced schedule where you'll be able to look at a schedule and go, man, that's a brutal schedule this year. But then next year it lightens up. I think the conference did a pretty good job of kind of equalizing this thing across the board.
They sure did.
Hey, Chris, I got a couple things I wanted to definitely talk to you about, and we're running kind of low on time already. But talk about Alabama, Georgia, and then let's talk some about Oklahoma and Auburn this past weekend.
Yeah, real quick on Alabama. Look, everybody wrote them off week one. It was an awful loss. They looked terrible. But as we go along, we're starting to see, looks like Florida State is a pretty damn good team. And Bama looked like a different ball club when they got back home. I get it was Louisiana Monroe and a not very good Wisconsin team, but Ty Simpson was lights out. I mean, that was the guy that was all hyped up before the season that we thought we might see this year. So I get it's on the road, it's in Athens, but Georgia ain't exactly look like the 85 Bears either on defense. I mean, they were lucky to get out of Tennessee with a win, with all the points and yards their defense gave up. So I think you're going to have a confident Alabama team going in there. It's starting to get a little bit healthy. They're supposed to get, their big D lineman back in Keenan. They're supposed to get Jam Miller back at running back. And so I think Bama's got a chance. And look, they've owned that rivalry for the most part the last decade. I get Nick Saban was on the sidelines for the majority of those, but even last year, DeBoer found a way to beat Georgia in Tuscaloosa. So I think they're going to be in that one. But to me, I can't go against Georgia. I picked Georgia and LSU to make it to Atlanta. So I'm sticking with the Bulldogs. But, man, Gunnar Stockton, great coming out party at Tennessee. He's going to have to play very well to beat Alabama. What was the other game you wanted?
Well, I was going to make a comment about that. It wouldn't be interesting if Alabama and Georgia turns out to be the shootout like Ole Miss and LSU was a couple years ago in Oxford, and LSU and Ole Miss turns out to be the defensive slugfest, at least on LSU's part, low scoring. But to talk about the Oklahoma situation this past week with Auburn, of course, Oklahoma moves to 4-0, ends up losing Mateers today, but there was some controversy and some poor officiating, and what did you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, it reminds me of when Patrick Peterson had the interception in Tuscaloosa, and afterwards some people went, yeah, it was a pick. Oh, well, they didn't call it on the field. I mean, it's like and the SEC office comes out and apologizes. Sorry, we got it wrong, but oh well, go on about your business. Still a loss, Auburn. I mean, at least my thing is it happened early enough in the game. It was the start of the second quarter. If that had happened in the final minute of the fourth quarter, I think we'd all be singing a little bit of a different tune. But there's no doubt, Auburn fans are incensed. Oklahoma fans are yelling, boo-hoo, get over it. So it is what it is. But certainly I would think there's going to be some points of emphasis to address this offseason from especially SEC officiating. Rule number one will be, what is a catch? You have to complete a catch all the way to the ground, out of bounds, into the parking lot. And then number two will be, yes, the art of deception, having the guy look like he's leaving the field but staying on, just at the edge.
Chris, how good is Texas A&M, and does that look like a one of the more difficult games on the schedule for LSU right now, even though it isn't in Baton Rouge?
Yeah, I mean, LSU has owned that rivalry in Baton Rouge. A&M has been in the conference since, 2012. They still have never won in Baton Rouge. So you feel good about, at least from a LSU perspective, of maintaining that. But it's a dangerous A&M team. They can throw it around the field. Marcel Reed went from a running quarterback last year to now a passing quarterback. They went and got two big weapons, in the transfer portal and brought them in Concepcion, and they've been flinging around the field. I mean, they won a shootout in Notre Dame. The one interesting part is Mike Elko's calling card is defense, and this A&M defense has given up a ton of yards and a ton of points so far on their schedule. Rather, they gave up 24 to UTSA, they gave up 22 to Utah State, 40 to Notre Dame. I'll be curious to see what they give up to Auburn this weekend. Granted, it's in College Station, but a very dangerous A&M team with the way they're throwing the football.
Chris, Billy Napier's having the worst luck he could possibly have this year. Are his days as numbered as they look, and who's his replacement if he is done?
Yeah, I was told that Napier doesn't make it to the end of October, that they got a bye week, and they're home for Texas and at A&M. He'll probably lose both of those. They'll be 1-5, and they'll make the firing after A&M. In fact, they might leave him in College Station, make him drive back to Gainesville after that one. But, who's going to be his replacement? Look, I think Florida is still a sexy job, maybe not as sexy as it was 5-10 years ago. I mean, this used to be talked about as one of the 5 best jobs in all of college football. Look at what Urban Meyer did there, and Spurrier and all this. I don't know if it's all that it used to be anymore.
Too many other good programs. He's surrounded by
the playing field has been leveled, but I still think it's a very attractive job. The big question is, do you go out and get a proven coach, or do you try to catch a rising star? And some of those names that have been thrown out there are Ryan Silverfield at Memphis, Alex Golesh at USF, some of those names. Of course, Lane Kiffin, they'll flirt with him. Yeah, Drinkwitz is very interesting. I mean, he's killing it at Mizzou. You wonder what he could do with a bigger program and more resources. And he's a good offensive mind. He runs the football incredibly well. He's been one of the best rushing teams since he's been there at Mizzou. So that's a name to keep an eye on as well. But I think the Kiffin stuff, I think he's stuck in Oxford. I don't think he'll ever leave.
Hey, Chris, thanks a lot. We appreciate it. We're glad that you're stuck at the Locked On SEC podcast. You do a great job with that. Should be a fun weekend of college football. We appreciate your time tonight.
Thanks, fellas. And Glenn, I'll finish that big book before next summer, all right?
Thanks a lot.
All right. We'll be back after this. We'll get into some more conversation. That was Chris Gordy joining us on the Max Home Hotline. More coming up on Tiger Rag Radio from the Super Chevy Dealer Studio when we come back.
Chevy trucks have you covered when the road takes you from smooth sailing to Chevy Colorado will eat up some of the toughest terrains with 5 available drive modes. And Silverado and Silverado HD have the muscle to take you out for some serious with multiple engine options and impressive towing. While Silverado EV is the perfect combo of performance and capability, making it a snap to hitch up this electric truck and hit the road. Wherever the road leads, Chevy trucks are right there with you. See your Super Chevy dealers today.
You should call that radio station and let him have it.
Good idea. 1-800-673-5555.
I want to be under the bright lights. I want to be on the Broadway stage.
Tiger Rag Radio is on now.
Back here on Tiger Rag Radio, big night in the Southeastern Conference as we now know the opponents that LSU will play in the league over the next 4 years. The dates will be released in December, by the way, so it'll draw this out a little bit. So we don't know exactly when LSU will be playing who and all that kind of stuff.
Do we know the order?
No, we don't.
No.
I don't think we know the order. No.
No, we don't know the order or the dates, but it's funny. LSU is going to Ole Miss 2 years in a row.
Right. And you get, I think, in 2026, a really good home schedule. A&M, Alabama, and Texas.
Yes.
Plus Clemson. That is a very, very good home schedule next year.
Will Dabo be here?
Let's see. He might not.
I think Dabo will still be.
I don't know where the buyout is at. I'm sure there's going to be some. I don't mean to get into the. There's probably got to be some frank discussions though with how he's doing things there.
Do you think Gundy's firing is going to have any impact on the way Clemson's thinking about Dabo?
No, because this has been Oklahoma State's been falling badly the last couple of years. I mean, Clemson was just in the college football playoffs.
Well, last year was really Oklahoma State's only bad year, 3-9, and he took $1 million pay cut to stay.
Yeah,
and promised to rebuild.
But they haven't been in like the picture.
They had since T. Boone Pickens has passed away. They have not been. They have not been the program that they were. I mean, it's amazing how much his financial support really helped that program. But,
well, I'm glad that LSU is playing Texas. I think
Texas makes the return trip to LSU.
Right, they owe them that game since 2019, and if Arch Manning indeed does become a great quarterback, you would hate for yet another great SEC player to never play LSU, which was the case with Peyton Manning, also the case with Herschel Walker and Bo Jackson. But all that stuff is going to change now. The best thing about the SEC schedule is the 2 and 4 year rotation, where you play all other 15 teams. You will play them at least once every 2 years and twice every 4 years. So that makes a lot of sense, because in the old format, you could go 10, 12 years without playing a team, or never go to another place for like a dozen years. So that's a great improvement.
No, I love it. And I know the negative part of it is not playing Alabama every year. So 2027 will be the first time LSU has not played Alabama since the mid-60s or 50s.
Exactly. Mid-60s. From 59 to 63, they didn't play at all. And then they played every year from then on. And it was the game in the SEC, especially this century. And I just saw Clay Travis was tweeting about how he's going to miss that game. T-Bob Hebert as well. It is kind of strange, I thought, of the SEC, because that was its bell cow for TV ratings.
Yes,
for years.
I think this just goes back to the Nick Saban argument that if their permanent opponents are going to be Auburn and Tennessee, you need to give them and this is not direct words from Nick Saban, but you needed to give them an easier opponent than LSU, and Mississippi State would fit that bill. And it makes sense for them to play Mississippi State when the two campuses are some 80 miles apart.
Yeah, it does. But Auburn's not what it was. That's the thing.
But they have
really
to play
good this
Auburn.
weekend, man.
Yeah, maybe they're getting better, but still, so what? They're the best team. And I don't think they did it because that's what Nick wanted. I think they did it because they're trying to preserve the status quo of the league. Mm-hmm. They're giving look, LSU's 3 permanent opponents, none of them have ever won an SEC title in football. I mean, not since the divisions. They got 3 lighter ones, really. But I can understand that. And at least they are playing very often, so that's going to be cool. Like LSU used to never play Tennessee. They've also rarely played Georgia. And Alabama has rarely played Florida. So that's going to even out. That's going to be cool watching that over the years.
So LSU next year goes to Arkansas. They'll go to Oxford again, as you mentioned. They'll go to Auburn, Kentucky, and Tennessee. Seems fairly manageable, right? They missed Georgia. My thinking was that if Alabama is a permanent opponent, and just because they haven't played Texas and Georgia the last 2 seasons, that next year they would have Texas, Georgia, Alabama on their schedule.
Well, in 27 they go at Florida and at Georgia. in 27, that
and A&M and at South Carolina. That'll be tough.
Of course, Florida might still be bad then too, But
Lane, it won't take Lane long to turn him around.
So, yeah, I don't know if the Florida job.
You
is
mean
a
John
better job.
Summerall, or did he just?
That makes more sense. John Summerall really would like the Auburn job.
Really?
But it looks like he's turned things around. He's from Huntsville.
Okay.
But I could see him going to Florida for sure.
Yeah.
I don't think Lane will go to Florida.
We got 3 openings already in college football. We'll see if we'll have any more. Anyways, when we come back, let's talk some more about this big game coming up on Saturday afternoon.
So we're talking about coaching openings at Tiger Rag Radio, and Brian Kelly's not being mentioned. Oh, my God.
And he shouldn't be. He shouldn't be. More coming up here from the Super Chevy Dealer Studio as you're listening to Tiger Rag Radio.
Things are happening big time at your East Baton Rouge Parish Library in September. Let's begin with the 48th Annual Author Illustrator Program featuring Brian and Andrea Davis Pinkey. Music is on the agenda with Red Stick Rhythms Concert Series. September also features Bilingual Family Hour at the new South Branch. For more information about library programs in September, go to ebrpl.com.
Now, back to Tiger Rag Radio, live from Super Chevy Dealers Studio.
Back here on Tiger Rag Radio, Jeff Palermo, along with the editor for Tiger Rag Magazine, Glenn Guilbeau. It's time to give you our scouting report on the Ole Miss Rebels. We head up to the great Magnolia State, and Michael Katz from the Northeast Mississippi Journal joins us on the Max Home Hotline as we are inside the Super Chevy Dealer Studio. Michael, thanks a lot for joining us as we are all looking forward to this battle of unbeatens, this top 15 matchup between the Tigers and the Rebels. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me, guys.
Well, it's great to have you on our airwaves. First of all, what's your sense of the quarterback situation here and what Lane Kiffin may do for Saturday afternoon?
Yeah, obviously a lot of gamesmanship, particularly when it comes to Lane Kiffin and injury reports and things of that nature. But I did think it was interesting yesterday during his press conference. Obviously, he was asked what factors would go into the quarterback decision, and he said if Austin Simmons is 100%, he's our starting quarterback, but he doesn't know, what percentage he's going to be at. So there's a lot of wiggle room there. I just know that when he injured his ankle the first time at Kentucky, obviously limited his mobility. I don't think he was able to practice much. So Trinidad, Chambliss got the start. He got hurt, though, in the game against Arkansas, and Austin went in. And he re-injured his ankle and did not play at all against Tulane. He was available, according to Lane Kiffin. I just think that when Ole Miss is at its best, they have a quarterback who is able to be a factor in the running game. And I just think with Austin's ankle the way it is, it's hard to see that being the best option, and especially since Trinidad Chambliss has just played out of his mind. He hasn't turned the ball over yet. He became the 4th Ole Miss quarterback ever to throw for 300 and run for 100 in a game last weekend against a pretty good Tulane team. He's just been completely in control. So, if Austin is not quite there, I would not be surprised to see it be Chambliss, and I think they would probably feel pretty confident with him out there too.
Hey, Michael, this is Glenn. What was Trinidad's injury that you mentioned in that was in the Arkansas game, right?
Yeah, I believe he hit his throwing hand on a helmet.
Oh, okay.
And he kind of got cut up, and he had to just get it taken care of on the sidelines. Austin came in for 2 plays. He threw a touchdown, but on one of the plays, he audibled himself into a run and made the ankle injury a little bit worse. But yeah, it was just a hand thing. I think Trinidad's fine.
How do you rate Ole Miss's pass defense and just their defense overall going into this game?
It's been a little up and down. I think the standard was set so high from last year's group. Arguably, it's probably the best defense in school history. If you're going by the players and the stats, they absolutely dominated against the run. I think 80 yards a game is what they gave up. They were number 2 in scoring defense. I mean, they were just they were hard to beat up front, and they lost so many of those guys. It's been a little bit of trial by fire. They've got a lot of really talented players, particularly up front, but they're young. They were stuck behind veterans these last couple of years, and it seems like they're finally getting settled in. That second half against Arkansas, the first half was, Arkansas got whatever it wanted. It was, I think it was 31-28 at halftime, and Taylor Green was doing anything that he wanted. And then Ole Miss's defense really sort of slowed them down. I think held them to 7 points in the second half. And against Tulane, they were absolutely dominant. So it seems like they might have found something there. I think it's just a younger group, and I think if you're looking at like the high-end talent that last year, Walter Nolan and Prince Louis and Trey Amos and all of these high draft picks, I don't know if right now they have those guys, right? And they might end up having guys who develop that way. But it's just a different collection of guys. Right now I'd be lying if I said the defense is anywhere close to where it was last year, but that was a pretty tough standard to get to.
How has former LSU Tiger Sage Ryan fared in that Rebels defensive secondary? And since we're on former LSU players, what about Logan Diggs after missing last season with an injury? And how does that Ole Miss running game look overall?
Yeah, well, Sage Ryan, he's been, really since he got here, he's really sort of become one of the leaders in that secondary. I think that when Ole Miss signed him, they knew exactly what they were getting. A guy he's not gonna mess up assignments. He's not gonna put himself in the wrong place or in bad positions. Has it been perfect in the secondary? No, but the pass defense has been fairly good for the most part this year. Part of that is because teams have run on Ole Miss fairly well. Last week, everything kind of changed because with the Tulane game, and the numbers kind of got skewed in that one. Tulane wasn't really able to do anything offensively, so everything looks a little bit better now. But Sage Ryan's done a really nice job. He's a veteran. Again, a whole new secondary, a bunch of transfers, and some younger guys. He's really filled that role well. Logan Diggs is interesting. Obviously he missed all of the regular season last year. He played in the Gator Bowl. I think he caught one pass. He really wanted to get back for a game last year, and all off season, Ole Miss really tried to remake its run game. Listen, when you lose 3 games by 13 points last year, there's little things that killed them, and they weren't able to close teams out last year. And a big part of that is because they couldn't run the ball when they needed to. They lost Quinshaw Judkins in the transfer portal. He obviously goes to Ohio State, and they win a national championship, and they have this dominant run game. I think Ole Miss really missed a strong running game against LSU. If they're able to run the ball, they probably win. Against Florida, same thing. Kentucky. This team is probably undefeated if they have Quinshaw Judkins or a bell cow type back like that. So, Diggs came back this year. He's been sort of in a complimentary role right now. Ole Miss got Kewan Lacey from Missouri, who was a 4-star guy that they wanted at a high school, and he chose Missouri. Didn't work out at Missouri, so he came to Ole Miss, and he's been dynamic. He's been really good. Him and Trinidad Chambliss have really upped that run game these last few weeks. Diggs is getting some time here and there, but he's definitely not the featured back. But I feel like he's gonna have a game where he makes a difference. Maybe it's this weekend. I don't know. But the run game is definitely, they knew that they needed to reestablish it, and bring in Diggs and Lacey and guys like that were a huge part of it.
Are you expecting a different game than the one 2 years ago with the 700 yards of offense Ole Miss put up on LSU?
I still can't believe that game. That was one of the craziest back and forths ever. I think Ole Miss was trailing by 9 with like 5 minutes left, and Trey Harris catches the touchdown with 39 seconds, and Jaden Daniels brings him right down the field, and I think the ball fell incomplete in the end zone for the very last play. I don't know if it's going to be quite like that. I think both defenses are in better places, particularly LSU's. Lane Kiffin has talked about how talented that defense is. He recognizes that. One, you have a second year under a very good defensive coordinator. They're going to be better than they were even last year. And then they brought in a lot of really good players out of the portal. They won the portal season, and Lane is not afraid to say that. Lane does the portal thing too, and he admits, like, hey, they got who they wanted, and it's showing. So I don't know if we're going to have a game in the high 50s or 40s. I wouldn't be surprised if it's kind of closer to last year with that 29-26. I think is what it ended up being. Because I think if it ends up in that 50s, I think both defensive coordinators are going to be hearing it from their respective head coaches.
Well, so what do you think is the big key here for Ole Miss? What do they need to do to get the victory?
I think the biggest thing is that, and they haven't done a great job of this year, they need to force turnovers. They have not really done a great job of that this year. I think the first couple of games they were turning the ball over at an alarming rate. Austin Simmons threw 4 picks, I think, in the first 2 games. So that turnover margin was looking really bad. That's obviously balanced out a little bit because Trinidad has not turned the ball over, but they just haven't really gotten a ton of takeaways. Those big momentum plays. I think they need to steal possessions if they can. I also think the other thing, and this is always sort of the wild card with Lane Kiffin, is sort of reading the situation. He's known as his fourth down gambler, but they've only attempted 2 fourth-down tries this year. Last year at this time they had attempted 7, I think. So he's really comfortable with their specialists, their kicker, their punter, and reading those sort of moments a little bit better. I'm going to be really interested to see how he handles a 4th and short that's on borderline field goal range this year. Like, does he feel this is a game where you got to risk it, or is it like it was when they beat Georgia last year where they kicked the field goals? And it turned out that in a game where Georgia didn't score that much, the field goals were all the difference in the world. So I'm really curious to see how he handles it.
Michael, thanks a lot for your time tonight, man. We appreciate the scouting report on the Rebels. Thank you very much, and it should be a fun one on Saturday in Oxford.
Absolutely. Appreciate you guys.
Thanks, Mike.
Michael Katz from the Northeast Mississippi Journal giving us the scouting report on the Rebels on the Max Home Hotline. More from the Super Chevy Dealer Studio when we come back on Tiger Rag Radio.
How you doing? This is Snoop Dogg.
Tiger Rag Radio.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, you are tuned in.
Talk LSU sports, interviews, opinions, and your calls around the Tiger Nation.
Baton Rouge was a life for me, home with LSU Tigers.
Now more Tiger Rag Radio.
We love to score and get highlights and championships and play to win.
Tiger Rag Radio.
All right, back here on Tiger Rag Radio, Jeff Palermo, along with the executive editor for Tiger Rag Magazine, Todd Horne, and the editor, Glenn Guilbeau. We're inside the Super Chevy Dealer Studio. Last year, Lane Kiffin certainly invested heavily in the transfer portal. It did not produce a college football playoff appearance. LSU invest heavily in the transfer portal, and we'll wait and see what happens with LSU. But hearing from Lane Kiffin earlier this week, he was certainly impressed with what LSU has done as far as the players they've been able to get out of the transfer portal, in particular, the guys out of the defensive secondary.
3 of the 4 secondary portal guys. So they've done a great job with that. They've heavily financially invested into the portal and made that decision. That's no secret. Coach Kelly's talked about that, how much money they've spent, and it shows. Those are 3 guys that were heavily recruited and probably the 3 most expensive portal DBs in the market, and they got them all. So they did a great job with that, and now they're coaching them really well, and they're playing great.
Lane Kiffin commenting about LSU's defensive secondary. Here's what he had to say about quarterback Garrett Nussmeier.
Nussmeier does a great job of getting out of trouble and really quick feet and moving around, and he saved the game last year. Perkins has him to go to 4th and 24 or something, and he gets out of that. That probably would have ended the game. So he did a phenomenal job saving that game last year. Really great, savvy player.
And here's Kiffin talking about LSU's wide receivers.
I think they got a really good group of receivers and that can make a lot of plays. I just don't think they've had the numbers that they were probably thinking, but that happens sometimes early in the year. I look at the players more than scheme when I watch things, and I see elite players. So, we're going to have to play really well and be really challenged.
So there you go. Some thoughts from Lane Kiffin.
Is he on Xanax?
He's always very monotone and He's as a guy that he's not an energetic guy when he's in it. He talks like he just lost his dog all the time. To be honest with you,
yeah, he does. Well, he's certainly green with envy when it comes to Mansour Delane, Cooley, and AJ Halsey.
Right,
and I think rightly so. I mean, Delane is recognized statistically around the country right now as the number one cover cornerback in the country. And when you combine that with Halsey and Cooley, I mean, Halsey's a stud.
Yeah,
and he is really, LSU safety play is 20 times better than it was last year. And I'm glad Ole Miss has Sage Ryan and we have AJ Halsey and Cooley.
Yeah, and LSU got Halsey so late. Like he was the last one they got. That was interesting. But
it came down to him and to LSU and Miami.
Yeah. I mean, that's three studs in the defensive secondary, and Lane definitely wanted 2 or 3 of those guys for sure. But Lane always has something interesting to say. He was great after the LSU game last year. I never forget that, and you could hear the Tiger fans right out the door. It's like they were coming in. But and that was probably Nussmeier's greatest game last year. I mean that 4th and 24 Lane mentioned, and he was throwing on the run all night. That was really when at that point you're thinking he might leave and be the Heisman candidate last year, but then things changed at Texas A&M and continued. But it's going to be an interesting game. Lane kind of blew the game last year, most people think, but he's always a tough opponent for LSU.
Yep, he's one of the best play callers in the game.
I just think it's a totally different matchup.
Oh, no question.
And I think that's what he's Xanaxing about whenever he talks about those defensive backs, because that, like Booger said earlier, those defensive backs give LSU and Blake Baker the tools and options he needs to be able to disguise and really screw with Chambliss.
And play man-to-man.
Yeah.
All right, we'll take our final break. We'll say our goodbyes to Jackson Blackman, our longtime producer here on Tiger Rag Radio, and we'll get some final thoughts in on LSU Ole Miss, so stay tuned for that on Tiger Rag Radio from the Super Chevy Dealer Studio.
Tiger Rag Radio.
The details do matter. Every step, every hand on the ground, every route, everything that we do has a purpose. We are really focused, and our attention to detail is going to be unmatched.
All right, final segment of the show. So let's not try to get too emotional here, as our longtime producer Jackson Blackman is leaving us, but leaving us for bigger and better things, and he's leaving the country too. So Jackson, who has not spoken much during our show, but has been an instrumental part of Tiger Rag Radio. First of all, Jackson, I've been really trying to scramble my brain. How long have you been doing this? 2023, 2022? When did you jump on board?
Yeah, that's a great question. And now that I think about it, I don't know that the listeners have ever actually heard my voice on air.
Other than maybe we asked you a stupid Pelicans question every now and then.
Yeah, or like the mic was hot, somebody was recording something earlier, left it on. That was my mistake.
Voice.
But thank you. Yeah, I had a, maybe so. Yeah, and I had a good amount of radio experience for many years there at KLSU, and that was where I really formulated my own radio voice and persona and everything.
Yeah.
And I really have KLSU to thank for this job, because if you remember, the person who immediately preceded me was none other than Eric Piccoli.
Yes.
Who was station manager at KLSU at the time, and he graduated, and he said, hey, I've got this little gig. I'm looking for someone here at the station probably to get this experience. So I hopped on that. And it's funny. Honestly, he kind of undersold it a little bit. He's like, yeah, it's this local sports talk radio thing, just a little local kind of thing. And I was like, oh, it's Tiger Rag? So I was very pleased to come on board here, and that was in 2022. That was the spring of 2022.
Okay.
So fall of 2021, I started at KLSU, and I was there for the last 2 semesters that Eric was station manager.
Yeah.
And then I was fortunate enough to get this opportunity. I started in May of 2022. So it's been, I guess, like 3.5 years now.
And you've been through a lot of power outages, a lot of bad phone numbers that we gave Jackson, and then we're like, "What's going on?"
He's the only producer I've known since I came back.
There you go.
I don't know. Well, tell us a little bit about what this new opportunity is for you and what's taking you to Paris, France.
Yeah, it's funny. I never really planned on even graduating with a French degree, or it wasn't something I did that much, but I started out my college career in the humanities, and I needed some foreign language credits, and right before I started college, I had gone to Paris for the summer, so I had learned a little bit, and I just kept on that French language path for a while. And then they have a way of kind of hooking you in. You take a few classes, and it's like, oh, maybe I'll get a minor then. I shouldn't need too many credits to get a minor, but then it's more credits than you think, and then, okay, I'll just go ahead and get a major. But yeah, so I'm going to be working as a teaching assistant in a public school in France.
Wow.
So this is a opportunity that's available to you if you have done 3 or more years of French language studies. And so as an American citizen, I'm going to go over there and help instruct some kids in ESL, learning some English. And I'm going to be at this little public school in a suburb of Paris in kind of the northeast called Bondy.
Congratulations.
That's pretty
awesome.
cool, man.
Are you gonna do
cool.
a French podcast from
maybe
from Café du Monde or some place like that?
Perhaps, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to try and see if I can fit my microphone in my suitcase and take all that stuff over.
Well, Jackson, thanks again for all your work. It never went underappreciated, that's for sure. You do a lot of the grunt work, and you were always here on Tuesdays, whether it was COVID going on or whatever it may be. You always showed up, so we really appreciate it, and you are going to be sorely missed. And when you come back to the U.S., we'll see. Maybe the seat will still be there for you.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
Depending on if Andre feels comfortable with it, how much he likes it.
Yeah.
I know he wanted to be here tonight for just some final pointers, but I know Andre well, got to work with him for a while, so I'm very confident that he will step into this role with all the enthusiasm he always brings to everything he does.
Yes, he does. Jackson, thank you again. We appreciate it. We're going to miss you. That's going to do it for another edition of Tiger Rag Radio. For Jackson, Glenn, Todd, I'm Jeff. For the latest in LSU sports, check out TigerRag.com.
Tiger Rag is everywhere. Online at TigerRag.com. Like us on Facebook at Facebook.com/TigerRagMagazine. Or follow us on Twitter at Tiger_Rag.